In every person's life, there comes a moment when they feel an inexplicable deep connection with another. It manifests in glances that speak more than words, in emotions that arise as if from nowhere, in the feeling that you have met your soulmate. But what happens when these feelings go unanswered? What if you feel an all-consuming connection, but the other person does not reciprocate? Herein lies a psychological trap that many prefer not to talk about. It is a dangerous secret revealed by Carl Gustav Jung, an outstanding psychologist who explored the depths of the unconscious. This secret explains why men obsessively pursue women who reject them and why they suddenly lose interest after the conquest. This pattern may be influencing your relationship right now, whether you realize it or not. If you are single or your relationship is going through hard times, the information you learn in the next few minutes can save you from years of emotional suffering. According to statistics, 90% of women live their lives without realizing how this subconscious pattern secretly controls their personal lives. This is not just relationship advice, it is knowledge that the dating industry carefully conceals. Carl Jung revealed a hidden truth about male psychology that explains why you may be unknowingly ruining your chances of finding true love. And here's what few dare to say out loud. The man who is currently crazy about you may simply be projecting a psychological phantom onto you. As soon as this illusion dissipates, emotional withdrawal becomes almost inevitable. And the most amazing thing is that the stronger his love seems at the beginning, the higher the probability that it is just a temporary projection. By continuing to live in ignorance, you risk experiencing painful disappointments in relationships over and over again, like many women who face this every day. Every moment spent without this key knowledge allows unconscious forces to dictate the course of your personal life. The discovery you are about to make is so profound that it could be the deciding factor between a fleeting infatuation and building a strong, lasting love. This knowledge is available to you right now, but time may be limited. Carl Jung, an eminent psychologist, identified an amazing and at the same time dangerous pattern in the male psyche, explaining the contradictory behavior of men, which may be destroying your personal life right now. Jung concluded that in the collective unconscious of men lies an ancient aspiration, a deep longing for something mysterious and unattainable. This attraction generates a cycle of attraction and repulsion that baffles and hurts millions of women every day. The window of opportunity to apply this knowledge in your life is rapidly narrowing. Today, while there is still a chance, we will understand together how Jung's anima projection theory explains why men are so attracted to women who maintain distance, and how this understanding can instantly transform your experience in love before it's too late. Ignoring these signs can result in years spent on illusory relationships. Every day without this awareness distances you from true intimacy. Prepare for a deep dive into 5 psychological mechanisms discovered by Jung, which shed light on this destructive dynamic. Each mechanism will reveal a new aspect of this mystery, and in the end, you will gain an understanding available to only a select few. Mechanism 1. Anima projection. Phantom in the mirror. What is really happening in a man's soul when a woman decides to distance herself? Prepare for a revelation that explains why even the most promising and brightest romances sometimes fall apart overnight. Jung, the famous psychologist, discovered a phenomenon he called the anima, the inner feminine principle that lies dormant in the depths of every man's subconscious. It is this powerful force that shapes male attraction, often escaping the attention of even experienced relationship experts. And this is the first key to understanding why rejection creates obsessive compulsion. When a woman distances herself, a sinister process is triggered in the male psyche. She turns into a blank canvas for the projection of the anima. The vacuum created by the distance is filled with idealized fantasies, which multiply the attraction. The male mind seems to fill in the missing details, creating a perfect image that no real woman can match. Do you understand the psychological trap that arises as a result? Here it is, the first bitter secret that 99% of women do not realize. If, after your distancing, a man begins to worship you, then he does not love the real you, but only a ghostly image created by his own imagination, a projection that sooner or later will be shattered by harsh reality. Have you ever wondered why many men persistently pursue a woman, and then, after conquering her, suddenly lose interest? What subconscious force drives them to this irrational behavior, leaving women puzzled and heartbroken? The truth is that as the distance closes, the anima projection inevitably collides with reality, and the magic dissipates, sometimes in the most painful way. Think back to your past relationships. How often did you get the feeling that a man was in love, not with you, but with an idealized version that existed only in his head? How would your personal life change if you could recognize this mechanism before it shattered your hopes for happiness? The second mechanism, emotional hunger, when the unattainable becomes an obsession. Revelation number 2, capable of turning established ideas about male psychology of attraction upside down. Jungian psychology sheds light on an archaic, almost instinctive mechanism embedded in the male consciousness that few men are willing to admit. A woman's inaccessibility triggers an ancient program in the male psyche, subconsciously equating rarity with exceptional value. This impulse is so deep that it operates outside the realm of conscious control. Paradoxically, a woman who is always open and loving risks appearing less significant, while one who maintains emotional distance is perceived as a desirable trophy, demanding conquest at any cost. This truth may seem bitter, but ignoring it can lead to years of fruitless emotional torment. Ask yourself, have you ever experienced an inexplicable attraction to someone indifferent to you? While the sincere feelings of loving people went unanswered? What does this tendency, rooted in the depths of our psyche, say? Imagine a situation. You meet two people. One generously gives you attention, warmth, and willingness to be there. The other is aloof, their behavior unpredictable. Sometimes they show interest. Sometimes they suddenly disappear. Which of them awakens more curiosity and desire in you? Why does our psyche seem to be wired to value those who reject us more? The answer lies in a pattern so firmly woven into our collective unconscious that the vast majority of people are doomed to remain trapped in this destructive scenario until they become aware of the next key factor. Mechanism number 3. The archetype of the unapproachable maiden, a dangerous mythological trap. Now we will reveal the third secret, known only to the initiated. Carl Jung identified a powerful archetype rooted in the collective unconscious of the male mind, the archetype of the unapproachable maiden. This is not just a psychological concept, but a primal force secretly governing male actions, often unconsciously. When a woman distances herself, she awakens this ancient image in the male subconscious, creating an almost mystical attraction. The man enters a special state where he is drawn not to the real woman, but to the archetypal ideal, promising deep spiritual transformation. Do you realize how insidious this dynamic is? It is important to ask yourself, were the strongest feelings in your life based on genuine love or on unconscious archetypal projections? This phenomenon explains why many men say that only after meeting the one who previously seemed unattainable did they feel whole. But remember your experience of communicating with men who claimed they had never felt anything like it before. And most importantly, how long did this magic last? Most do not realize the tragedy of the situation. A man transfers his potential for inner harmony onto an unattainable female image, falling into a logical trap. Hence the question, what is preferable? To be the object of passionate but doomed idealization, or to be loved sincerely and moderately for your true essence? Mechanism number 4, shadow model, attraction to the painful. The fourth discovery in the psychology of male behavior may cause the most concern. Carl Jung discovered in the human psyche the so-called shadow, a collection of personality traits that we diligently suppress, deny, and displace from consciousness. When a man obsessively seeks a woman who remains unapproachable, the dark side is activated in his psyche. He falls under the influence of his own shadow, under the weight of an ingrained feeling of rejection and loneliness. It is important to realize that this shadow model transforms the ancient male fear of not being good enough into an obsessive attraction to a woman who, in essence, confirms this inner pain. It seems as if a mental wound is constantly seeking the knife that once inflicted it, in the subconscious hope of healing. Have you noticed that men suffering from deep complexes are especially drawn to women who reject them? Jung would explain this as a manifestation of a dangerous shadow model, where a man, without realizing it, tries to heal the wound of rejection by conquering those who reject him. This cycle can be addictive and lead to devastating consequences. Relationships built on such models are often characterized by intense passion, followed by an unexpected breakup. Only a few manage to break free from this vicious cycle. However, the following mechanism reveals the psychological key capable of liberating you from this destructive pattern. Mechanism number 5. The individuation cycle, becoming a mirror. We move on to the fifth and most profound secret of male psychology, discovered by Jung. This concept can forever change your understanding of relationships. Individuation is the process of achieving psychic wholeness and inner harmony. For men, this is often expressed as a subconscious desire to integrate their inner feminine side. And here's what's amazing. When a woman maintains her distance, she paradoxically becomes the perfect mirror for projecting a man's repressed femininity. Without understanding this mechanism, you risk becoming merely an instrument in a man's psychological journey. This dynamic creates a destructive paradox. The more a woman keeps her secrets and keeps her distance, the more strongly she reflects a man's unexplored inner world. The man, without realizing it, seeks to reunite with the repressed parts of himself. The question arises, are you loved for your true essence, or are you being used as a mirror for someone who is looking for themselves? And here's another striking discovery. This mechanism also works in reverse. The unpleasant truth is that you, too, can project your animus, the inner masculine archetype, onto the men in your life. What you take for love at first sight is often just a powerful subconscious projection of your own inner potential. Now that we've delved into the Jungian depths of psychology, the culmination of our research is at hand. I will share with you a revelation that few experts in the field of interpersonal relationships dare to make, and even fewer publicize. The emotional storm you experienced while reading these lines is no accident. It is a reflection of the processes taking place in the male subconscious at the moment of projection. You have, in a sense, experienced in real time the psychological model that may have been subtly influencing your relationships for years. So, here are 5 unmistakable signs that you are being used as a projection screen. How many of these do you recognize in your past or present relationships? 1. Excessive idealization as a disguised trap. He begins to endow you with almost unearthly qualities, an incomprehensible perfection. Pay attention to phrases like, "I've never met anyone like you," "You're not like anyone else," or "I feel like I've known you forever." Familiar, isn't it? The intensity of this idealization increases as you exhibit emotional detachment. The harsh psychological truth is that he doesn't see the real you, but only a phantom created by his mind, an image that you are never destined to match. 2. Increasing obsession with rejection. Watch for this ominous pattern. The more you distance yourself, the more his interest flares up, reaching threatening proportions. A continuous stream of messages, unexpected displays of attention, passionate declarations of love. All of this indicates that he is mired in psychological projection, not a real connection with you as an individual. This is a critical moment when obsession easily turns into possessiveness. 3. An irresistible attraction to the mysterious. Like a moth doomed to burn in the flame, he feels an irresistible attraction to the unexplored facets of your personality. He builds intricate theories about your true essence and motives, showing much more interest in the hidden aspects than in what you openly demonstrate. In essence, what he is desperately trying to find in you is a reflection of his own inner darkness. 4. A transformation bordering on mysticism. With a feverish gleam in his eyes, he claims that he feels alive in your presence, as if reborn. He describes euphoric, almost transcendent states, comparable to the effects of a potent drug. However, this altered state of consciousness is not true love, but merely the result of an archetypal projection that has a profound impact on his psyche. 5. The inevitable collapse. The most devastating sign manifests itself when the distance disappears and he finally gains your favor. His interest wanes, like fog in the sun. The intensity of feelings weakens, the magic dissipates, and sometimes even a sudden and inexplicable aversion arises. The cruel truth comes to the surface. He was not attracted to you, but to the idealized projection created by his imagination. Are you ready for the final realization that will forever change your perception of relationships? We have reached the culmination of our journey into the depths of Jungian psychology. Here's the translation of the provided text into American English, following all instructions. Now you know the hidden truth about the male psyche that Jung brought to light. Knowledge that many would prefer to keep hidden, but which is now in your hands. The paradox of distance and attraction is not just a game in relationships, but a deeply rooted psychological mechanism, taking its roots in the most ancient layers of the collective unconscious. This understanding is the pinnacle of psychological knowledge of human relationships. But this is where the real transformation begins, the one you subconsciously expected while reading these lines. The turning point that justifies all the tension you have experienced. Realizing how this dark dynamic works should not push you towards manipulation or cynicism. It is only the first step towards liberation from unconscious behavior patterns that may have defined your personal life until now. When you recognize the projection, it loses its power over you. And here's the final, life-altering revelation. The true power of this knowledge lies not in using distance to influence others, but in recognizing when you yourself become a victim of unconscious projections. True freedom comes when you are able to see through the psychological illusions that hold both men and women captive. Imagine a wonderful world of relationships where you are valued and loved, not for conforming to someone's old ideas, but for your unique personality. Free yourself from the imposed role of a mirror reflecting someone else's unconscious dreams, and gain the chance to be yourself, a real, unique person, connected to another by a genuine bond. The main question here is not how to use this knowledge to control feelings, but how to break free from the shackles of outdated patterns and build relationships based on reality, not on ghostly fantasies. True, deep love blossoms only when we stop being a screen for other people's projections and appear in all our human complexity. Your further choice will determine your destiny in love. The emotional intelligence you have gained contradicts the advice of traditional guides on winning hearts. This is valuable psychological knowledge, the key to getting rid of years of mental anguish, but only if you start acting immediately, not allowing ancient unconscious patterns to regain control of your life. This Jungian wisdom about the male psyche is carefully guarded from most women, as it reveals an inconvenient truth about the nature of attraction. While countless women around you continue to flounder in destructive cycles of idealization and disappointment, wondering painfully, why do men pursue them with all their passion at first and then suddenly lose interest? They suffer, unaware of the hidden forces that control these processes. Precious time is running out when you can radically change your destiny, armed with this knowledge. Every day, countless women miss a unique opportunity to build genuine intimacy, remaining captive to their own illusions. If you recognize yourself in at least one of these 5 disturbing psychological signals that have appeared in past or present relationships, don't delay. Share this information with someone who desperately needs it. This action may be the deciding factor, separating her from years of suffering and opening the way to long-awaited liberation. All that is required of you now is to honestly analyze the history of your relationships. Which of these 5 manifestations of unconscious anima projection have you encountered most often? Was it excessive idealization of a partner, obsessive preoccupation with them, or an unhealthy reaction to rejection? Perhaps you noticed a mystical reverence in his words addressed to you. This is not just a theoretical discussion. Your awareness can save another woman from deep emotional trauma. Share your experience in the comments. Your courage in exposing this destructive pattern can point the way out of the vicious circle that you have finally broken to many other women. Your comment may be the saving call that someone desperately needs today. In the future, you will get acquainted with a dangerous male archetype that many women unconsciously project onto their partners. By recognizing it, you can instantly free yourself from a destructive relationship pattern that would otherwise be repeated again and again. This valuable psychological knowledge about the dynamics of relationships will not be available for free forever. Join the community of awakened women who have realized what hidden forces have been controlling their personal lives until now. Your future self will be immensely grateful to you for this simple but bold step taken today. Imagine that behind the obsessive pursuit by a man experiencing rejection, there is something more than just wounded pride. In reality, his behavior may be an echo of a deep childhood trauma that he is unconsciously trying to heal through you. This psychological concept can forever change your perception of male psychology and free you from the burden of personal responsibility for their reactions. Carl Jung, a perceptive researcher of the human soul, discovered a hidden yet powerful aspect of the male psyche that many specialists prefer to ignore. When a man becomes obsessed with a woman who avoids him, he may be subconsciously seeking to heal an old wound related to rejection by his mother. In every boy's life, there comes a moment of natural separation from his mother, a psychological weaning necessary for the formation of his male identity. However, this process almost always leaves a mark, a deep longing for the unconditional love and acceptance with which he was surrounded in early childhood. Understanding this mechanism opens your eyes to the true motives behind male behavior. When you create emotional distance, you involuntarily awaken this ancient maternal wound in his subconscious. His persistent pursuit of you is not so much a desire to win your heart as a desperate attempt to heal the primary rejection that shaped his emotional foundation. As a result, a vicious cycle emerges. The further you distance yourself, the more his abandonment wound is activated and the more obsessive his pursuit becomes, sometimes reaching unhealthy proportions. And here's the paradox. When you become completely available, the emotional tension that reminds him of his original wound disappears, and with it, his interest fades. Impartially analyze your past romantic relationships. Have you noticed a pattern where men with dramatic pasts marked by childhood traumas displayed unhealthy obsession and intrusiveness as soon as you distanced yourself even slightly? This is not a random coincidence, but a manifestation of the inner wounded boy desperately seeking healing through re-experiencing and, ideally, resolving his original psychological trauma. Many do not realize that such a pattern forms a powerful emotional addiction, comparable in strength to a narcotic. The neurochemical processes activated in the phases of hunting, fleeting intimacy, and subsequent rejection create a stable psychological dependence that can persist for decades if not recognized and interrupted in time. Ask yourself an honest question. Are you playing the role of the rejecting maternal figure in your current relationships, thereby inadvertently fueling a vicious cycle that will never lead to a healthy and mature attachment? The bitter truth is that many women intuitively sense this dynamic and subconsciously manipulate it to maintain control over the relationship. However, this manipulation comes at a price. It dooms the relationship to perpetually remain in a state of neurotic dependence, depriving it of the opportunity to grow into genuine love and intimacy. And so we come to the most important stage of this journey, the moment when awareness transitions into real change. Everything you have learned up to this point boils down to one key question. How do you break this closed circle of projections and rejection to create a genuine connection? Carl Jung offers an answer so profound that it is rarely touched upon in classic relationship guides. The path to healing requires a step that, at first glance, seems paradoxical: the conscious integration of male and female aspects within oneself. When you achieve psychological wholeness through your own process of individuation, you no longer need other people to project your inner completeness onto. This process begins with a bold psychological act, a willingness to recognize and accept your own projections. Whenever you experience a strong, sudden attraction to someone, stop and ask yourself, am I really seeing this person as they are, or am I projecting my inner animus onto them? The uncomfortable truth is that the projection mechanism works both ways. Just as men tend to project their anima archetype onto women, women also transfer their animus onto men. The feeling that he completes me is often just an echo of recognizing one's own rejected male traits, which instead of being integrated internally, are projected into the external world. In this lies a profound realization. By reclaiming one's projections and integrating both female and male aspects, a person attains inner wholeness. This wholeness gives rise to a completely new type of attraction, no longer a feverish search for a missing piece, but a natural resonance between two self-sufficient individuals capable of seeing each other without illusions. Carl Jung called this conjunctio, the sacred union of opposites in the depths of the soul. Achieving this inner harmony radically transforms relationships, moving them from a realm of neurotic dependence to one of conscious choice. There is no longer a need for someone to fill the void. The choice falls on someone who enriches an already existing wholeness. Integration does not imply a denial of femininity, but rather an acceptance of the entire spectrum of the self. Strength and vulnerability, logic and intuition, assertiveness and receptivity, without shifting rejected aspects onto others. The paradoxical key to genuine intimacy, understood by few, lies in the fact that it becomes possible only when it ceases to be a necessity for feeling complete. By experiencing oneself as a whole person, one gains the ability to see others as they truly are, rather than as a screen for one's own internal images. Imagine the transformation in personal relationships when they are based on inner harmony rather than a sense of deficiency. What if you could perceive those around you in their true light, rather than through the prism of your own animus projections? And what if they saw in you a real person, and not a reflection of their anima fantasies? Jungian psychology opens the path to genuine freedom, liberation from the unconscious forces that have shaped human relationships for centuries. This is a transition from a life governed by projections to conscious connections built on reality. The main question now is not whether you are worthy of love, but whether you are capable of loving without resorting to projections. Are you ready to abandon illusions and accept another person with all their complex imperfections? This is both the most difficult task and the greatest reward that conscious relationships offer. We have reached a culmination where all the elements of our Jungian study merge into one. Now you have at your disposal knowledge unavailable to most, an understanding of the hidden psychological forces that determine attraction and relationships. The key question is how you will use this knowledge. Will you use it as a tool for manipulation, creating an artificial distance to activate projections and obsession, or as a path to liberation for yourself and others who are still trapped in unconscious patterns? Carl Jung, the distinguished Swiss psychoanalyst, argued that conscious thinking represents the pinnacle of humanity's moral achievements. Shedding the light of consciousness into the dark corners of the unconscious is not just a psychological act, but a deeply ethical one, with far-reaching consequences for the individual and their relationships with the world. It is in this process that the knowledge you now carry within you, like a treasure waiting for its moment, is hidden. Now, a fateful choice stands before you: to continue participating in the age-old game of projections and denial, using the knowledge gained to achieve short-term control over the situation, or to decisively break the vicious circle and create a completely new model of relationships based on a genuine vision of yourself and those around you. The first path, of course, promises quick power and an illusory sense of superiority, but it will inevitably lead to long-term suffering and disappointment. The second path, on the other hand, will require considerable courage and willingness to abandon familiar but destructive patterns of behavior. But it is this path that will open the door to a world of genuine intimacy and deep connection with other people, a connection that will not be destroyed by the onslaught of inevitable projections and disappointments. Imagine a world where relationships are built not on the shaky foundation of neurotic projections, but on the solid foundation of conscious awareness of oneself and one's partner. Imagine connections that only become deeper and stronger over time, rather than fading and disappearing like a mirage in the desert. This is the potential that Jungian psychology reveals in us, the possibility of building not only healthier and more harmonious relationships, but also a more humane, integrated world as a whole. Allow me to reveal to you the most intimate truth. Everything you have ever sought in others, strength, wisdom, love, all those qualities that you unconsciously projected onto your partners, has always been within you. They were just waiting for you to realize them and integrate them into your personality. Your wholeness lies not in finding the perfect partner, but in recognizing your own self-sufficiency and completeness. This is the sacred marriage that Jung spoke of, not between two separate people, but between the disparate parts of your own being, striving for reunification and harmony. So, I address you one last time to ask a crucial question. How will you use this intimate knowledge of psychology that eludes the understanding of most women? Are you doomed to perpetually spin in a vicious cycle of idealization and subsequent disappointment, where the initial strong attraction inevitably turns into a feeling of abandonment and loneliness? Or will you be able to use this invaluable understanding to break free from the shackles of the past and create something fundamentally new? Genuine relationships built on mutual recognition and a sincere vision of each other. Right now, you have to make a choice that will determine not only the nature of your future love connections, but also the further development of your entire emotional sphere. Many will undoubtedly prefer to return to familiar but unconscious patterns of behavior. However, I believe that you are among those who are capable of more. Give preference to awareness. Make a choice in favor of reality, not illusions. Choose freedom instead of the familiar but painful game of projections. And remember, the very psychological mechanisms that once held you captive can now become a solid foundation for your liberation. The power has always been within you. Carl Jung only pointed us in the direction where to look for the source of this